When the Cowboys fired Kellen Moore, and let's be real, they fired him, I was skeptical. That's because the last time Mike McCarthy called the plays for an offense, he was getting massages instead of going to team meetings. But 12 weeks into the season, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I think they've got what it takes to even beat the good teams in the NFC. Here's 3 reasons why. The offense be humming. Cowboys offense is definitely looking really good right now. It's top 10 in DVOA, and Dak Prescott just had his best 6-game stretch ever. But that wasn't always the case. Through week 5, Mike McCarthy's unit failed to impress. The offense was ranked 19th in DVOA, while QB Dak Prescott only had 5 touchdowns to show. Not to mention, they only put up 16 points against the Cardinals, a team, if you want to be polite, have been ambivalent about winning this year. Funny enough, the struggle on offense wasn't because Mike McCarthy was actually running the ball more, like he promised in the offseason. He actually ran the ball even less on first and second down, which is a good thing. But so many of those passes are from quick game. And through week 5 of this season, they had double their usage of quick game year over year, according to PFF. These changes didn't really help Dak Prescott to start the season. Those interceptions that weren't really a problem but were made out to be thanks to ESPN's First Take were largely thanks to bad luck and the fact that he throws the ball deep a lot. Throwing it short might result in less interceptions, but it also makes someone way less productive. But instead of resorting back to the Kellen Moore playbook, Mike McCarthy did something a little bit different. Instead of relying too much on Dak Prescott being able to diagnose things at the line of scrimmage, Peyton Manning style, McCarthy's incorporated more effective motion and play action to the scheme. Case in point, this deep shot from Dak Prescott. This touchdown to Cooks was largely thanks to play design. They motioned the tight end and then boot it and then create misdirection. Compare that with Kellen Moore's offense. Moore went deep a lot too, but didn't help make things easier for Prescott. Moore ran play action, but when he did, it just seemed more half-hearted. Relying on your quarterback to always make the genius read isn't that efficient or effective. So in other words, McCarthy's simplifying things, not by making the throws shorter, but by making the throws easier, has put the Cowboys offense in a way better place than it was before. Dak is back. As I mentioned earlier, Dak's playing really well. And by really well, I mean 18 touchdowns in 6 games well. That's MVP well. Playing quarterback for the Cowboys ain't easy. Just take a look at Tony Romo's career. During an era that wasn't quite pass happy, he was very successful and still is constantly taking shit. He gets talked about like he's Rex Grossman. The same thing is happening with Dak Prescott. He keeps getting compared to Kirk Cousins unfavorably, and he's a constant target of Stephen A. Smith. But he seems to be handling it well this year. He even said so much in a recent press conference that it's a part of growing up, something Stephen A. probably will never do. Whatever it is, it seems like he's in a better headspace, and you can definitely tell when he's playing. For one, he seems to be moving around more this year in general, making plays with his feet. In recent years, he hadn't run as much. However, so far this season, he's already run for 151 yards. In all of last season, he ran for 182. And it's not just running. Mike McCarthy has helped to make some of those deep plays easier for him, but he's by no means some shot play merchant now. Take, for example, Aaron Rodgers and his appearance on Pat McAfee recently, where he gushed over the play of Dak Prescott.
I love the way he's playing, and I love the way he's playing, like really playing. I'm not talking about just like, making good throws. I'm talking about, like, it seems more rare that guys are actually really playing a position where you're making adjustments, you're handling everything line of scrimmage. Now you're doing this crazy cadence stuff. Like, I love it.
Notably, he mentions the incorporation of more dummy cadences and continuing to do a lot of work at the line of scrimmage. It's summing up basically by saying he really likes the way he's playing quarterback, but actually playing it. It's kind of an indirect shot at Matt LaFleur, who ran an offense that was kind of quarterback-proof. If you'll recall, by the end of his time in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers almost seemed wistful for the days with Mike McCarthy. To its credit, McCarthy hasn't tried to shoehorn Dak into his system and doesn't seem to resent him like LaFleur did with Rodgers. All in all, it just seems like a healthy relationship, and they're going to need it to stay that way if they plan on beating the Eagles or the Niners. But more on that in a bit. Just enough Cooks. I know you're thinking, this section is about Brandon Cooks. It's not. This section is about what happened last year with Moore and McCarthy. Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy were always kind of strange bedfellows, but when McCarthy was hired, he had to keep Moore because Jerry Jones really liked him. This despite the fact that their offenses were very different from each other. McCarthy preferred a traditional West Coast approach, whereas Kellen Moore preferred Eric Coryell. The crazy part is it worked, but for whatever reason, it never really materialized in playoff wins. Oftentimes, the team seemed disorganized at the end of games. So moving on from Moore could make sense, but then again, they moved on to McCarthy, who also has his own issues at the end of games. I was definitely skeptical of the move at the time, and even said as much in my video back in February. I may have even exchanged several comments back and forth with a Cowboys fan who was very optimistic about McCarthy. So I'll take the L and definitely say the offense looks good so far, without as many cooks in the kitchen. That said, there still isn't necessarily any proof to tell me that the end of games are going to be better. But if you want to point to the Eagles game, there might be some optimism there. In 2022, the Eagles and Cowboys exchanged wins when the other side had their backup quarterback playing. So not much to glean there. And when the Cowboys faced the Niners this year, they got blown out, but that was still when they were too reliant on the short passing game. However, Dak played way better against the Eagles, who are currently the best team in the NFL. He averaged 8.5 yards per pass for 374 yards and 3 touchdowns with no interceptions. Compare that to the Niners game, where he was averaging 6.4 yards a pass and 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Sure, they still lost the Eagles game, and there was still some weirdness at the end, but they weren't blown off the field, and there were no interceptions for Stephen A to harp on. You can't say that they're exactly over the hump here, but they're trending in the right direction. When Super Bowl. It's clear to me with the changes that Mike McCarthy has made to his system that he's really serious about winning another Super Bowl without Aaron Rodgers. And much has been made about Dallas' struggles in the playoffs, but I think there's definitely reason for optimism that you're not going to see the same old Cowboys this year. And that's just based on what McCarthy has contributed. I haven't even touched on the defense, which he has little to do with. But Dan Quinn obviously has the unit playing well, even without Trayvon Diggs. All in all, I like their chances to make their first Super Bowl since 1995. So what do you think? Can the Cowboys make the Super Bowl? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe and pass the video around. I'd really appreciate it.